G'day guys and gal. The Black Templars are widely considered to be the most powerful Space Marine chapter in the Imperium. They have the Emperor's Champions, which are hand-selected warriors blessed by their god, Grimaldus, a man too stubborn to die, way more Marines than they should due to the technicality of being on Eternal Crusade, but most importantly of all, they have High Marshal Helbrecht, one of the greatest warriors and generals in the Imperium. This guy was so vital to the Imperium and of such a massive asset that when he was a child, the Emperor brought his shattered consciousness together for enough time to tell the Custodian Guard to protect the boy and ensure he would live long enough to be recruited by the Black Templars. Helbrecht is an absolute legend of the Imperium and is genuinely considered to be one of the best naval commanders in all of humanity. Need I say more? This man deserves his own video. Before we get started, the sale of the legendary Burning Hand of Vengeance continues and only has a couple days left, then it's done. Kaput. You miss out, silly boy. This model took a year of producing, refining and testing to get perfect, and it was worth every effort. The detail is insane, but also translates beautifully to tabletop scale. There are a ton of weapon and head variants, so you can really make him your own, and you can even decide if you want to have the standalone version where he's by himself or the diorama version featuring a bunch of sluzz marines eating shit. You can actually mix and match the two versions if the 3 marines is too many. The choice is yours. The customization doesn't stop there though, as the model is available in 4 different scales: the tabletop scale for wargaming or army painting, the 75mm art scale for those that want bigger, easier to access details, the 112 bus scale for you hectic units out there, and then there's the 1/6 ultra scale for the collectors of you out there. As I've said, the model is so difficult to produce that I don't know if we'll ever bring it back, so if you think at any point in your life you will want a Burning Hand of Vengeance, then now is the time. We also made the Sluzz Marines their own standalone models because they were stunning in onto themselves. Burning Hand will only be around until this weekend, so this is your last chance. Link is below. Today we'll go over the lore of High Marshal Helbrecht and why he is truly the master of weaponized autism. Let's get into it. Many characters within 40k have humble beginnings, and through hard effort, a strong will, and constantly failing and improving, they become the legends they are today. Characters like Dante spring to mind here, however some characters are chosen by destiny and are just ridiculously overpowered from the get-go, like Abaddon. Helbrecht take this a step further as he was literally hand-chosen by the God Emperor. You could argue that it was a somewhat humble beginning, as he was born in an underhive of a world no one gives a fuck about. However, he was secretly watched over by the Aquilian Shield as a youth. The Aquilian Shield are a shield host of custodians who are tasked by the Emperor or Doomscries, which is kind of more or less the Emperor as well, to watch over and protect certain individuals in the Imperium. These individuals would usually then go on to achieve amazing things or be pivotal in massive Imperial victories. Now you may be curious how the big skeletal Emperor tells his custodians to do this. Well, sometimes he is able to cohere himself briefly in order to speak to certain custodians in their dreams. These custodians, the Emissaries Imperialis, shield host, then convene and discuss the dreams until the message is determined. They then pass the message over to the Aquilian Shield if it's appropriate. On the other side of the coin, there is also the Doomscries, powerful psychers who constantly look through the warp to try to detect threats before they emerge. They also inform the Aquilian Shield about who they should protect to avoid disaster. So the Aquilian Shield have 2 options for intel. For Helbrecht, it was the Doomscries who told the Aquilian Shield of him. But I digress. The Aquilian Shield watched over Helbrecht from the shadows his entire youth and ensured he would be found and recruited by the Black Templars. From here, Helbrecht absolutely jettisoned through the Black Templars hierarchy. He was extremely stubborn, violent, and loved killing bitches. All traits greatly valued by the Black Templars. As a neophyte, he held the line against the Tyranids at Deathcore Ridge. He slaughtered the Cow's death cult on Pelegrin 4, and soon after this he was promoted to Sword Brethren, which is like a veteran after clapping some Edward Cullen Twilight looking motherfucker. Soon after this, his Marshal Diadin, Helbrecht's commander for the Crusade, was slain, with Helbrecht taking his place. So in only a few decades, Helbrecht had gone from Initiate to Marshal, an extremely rapid rise in a very competitive chapter. After about a century or so of outstanding service, the current High Marshal Cordhel was killed by a spastic ass Cornite Berserker. Gotta watch out for those. With Helbrecht being unanimously voted in to become the new High Marshal of the Black Templars. He was given the Sword of the High Marshals, not exactly the most exciting name, however it did contain fragments of Rogaldorn's own sword within it, so it was seen as pretty cool. Helbrecht's first action solidified him as the most hectic, full-send dude in all of 40k, as he declared crusade against these random ass aliens living in the Ghoul Stars. For context, the Ghoul Stars are extremely out of the way and the threats within the Ghoul Stars usually stay there, but Helbrecht was like, fuck it, it's genocide time. So they initiated the Ghoul Stars Crusade and genocided pretty much all Scythor fiends, blowing up many worlds in the process. The Crusade only ended because shit was going down on Armageddon and the Black Templars had to abandon this random side quest. Gazkel had returned to Armageddon, so the Third War was kicking off. Helbrecht was given overall command due to being the most qualified, and who the fuck is going to say no to Helbrecht? He dominated the Orcs of the Void by personally leading some of the most daring boarding actions in history. After some hard fighting and legendary last stands, the Orcs left Armageddon Armageddon to continue their own conquests elsewhere, but Helbrecht didn't hear no bell. He and Yarrick chased Gazkal and were hellbent on his destruction. They even managed to corner the flagship and were going to destroy it, but Gaz managed to slip into the warp and kick off his legendary war regardless. But a man that can make the Prophet of Gork and Mork run is a man you don't want to fuck with. Helbrecht isn't just beefing with random ghoulish Xenos and Orcs though. He went face to face with Imotekh the Stormlord, greatest of the Necron commanders. Helbrecht was ruthless and brilliant, but so was Imotekh. The two war leaders tried to outmaneuver each other and eventually came face to face in combat. Amazingly, Helbrecht was actually the greater warrior, landing devastating blow after blow on Imotekh. However, Imotech's extremely advanced necrodermis body meant he was constantly regenerating, and after a long fight, Helbrecht collapsed from exhaustion and dozens of wounds. Imotekh was so impressed with Helbrecht, so instead of finishing him off, he sliced off his hand and kicked him down a hill, a sign of respect and disrespect in equal measure. Helbrecht was something beyond furious. He had lost the duel and the battle. There would be vengeance. Vengeance would come soon as Helbrecht caught Imotech's fleet off guard. His tactics this time were less cautious. He simply shot the engine of Imotech's ship, stopping it from escaping before going full Leroy Jenkins and boarding it. Overwhelmed by so much autism, Imotekh teleported to safety, but his flagship was then jettisoned into a nearby star. Helbrecht's vengeance had not yet been satisfied, but blowing up the enemy's ship is a good start. This brings us to the current setting. When the Great Rift opened, many Black Templar fleets were scattered. The frustrated Helbrecht wanted to keep chasing Gaz, ignoring the countless pleas for help from countless Imperial worlds. However, when Guilliman caught up with Helbrecht, he reminded the High Marshal of his oath to the Emperor and the Imperium, that he should set aside his personal vendettas for the good of mankind. Helbrecht agreed and called off his pursuit of Gaz. He then split up his forces and has begun liberating world after world, in the name of Rogel Dawn and the Emperor. Helbrecht's Crusaders personally engaged and destroyed Tyranid and Orc forces, with Helbrecht personally slaying war boss Tusker Grob Worldkiller. Unlike a number of other big chapters like the Space Wolves and Dark Angels, who were pretty against the Primaris at the start, the Black Templars, especially Helbrecht, were like, fuck yeah, more Marines for Eternal Crusade, let's go. There was one instance of a Black Templar Crusade fleet rejecting their Primaris, killing them and the custodian that delivered them. Yep, it was pretty silly, but overall the Black Templars are just happy to be at war. After all, Helbrecht himself has recently been upgraded to a Primaris Marine, making him even girthier. What does Helbrecht bring into battle with him? After all, he is pretty blinged out. As standard for a Chapter Master, he wears master-crafted Artificer armor, which is just a flat all-round upgrade from normal Space Marine armor, although in especially spicy circumstances, he can choose to wear Terminator armor. Helbrecht also brings the Sword of the High Marshals into all battles. Although it's a sign of office, it's also a legendary blade with very few that can rival its power. Helbrecht also doesn't slack when it comes to maintaining his sword either. He constantly has genetically modified gimp slaves following him around with multi-purpose spray and wipes in order to constantly clean his sword, even while it's literally lodged in the chest of an orc. Helbrecht also has a combi melter, which is an insane weapon for him to just have on him. It would be powerful enough to one-shot Terminators, or if used correctly, a Dreadnought. He also has an Iron Halo, which is a force field, making him even harder to kill, along with an assortment of grenades. It's hard to argue that he lives purely off plot armor when he is so heavily armed and armored. Skill is awesome to have, but a force field, hectic armor, a big-ass sword, and a combi melter definitely don't hurt either. The Black Templars have some of the most awesome characters, Sigismund and Grimaldus being a few examples, so it's awesome to see they have a chapter master who can back it all up. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Burning Hand of Vengeance. Only a few days left, don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more autistically weaponized content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.